All right. Welcome, everyone, to another panel here on that main stage. We just wait until all mumbling back there silent. Okay, great. So this is going to be a panel about cybersecurity, AI, like the topic anyways, right? I'm sitting here going from left to right with Anton. Anton is founder and CTO at Baobab. That's a cybersecurity insurance startup. So coming and bringing the business side in, you also see it by wearing a suit, right? We have, sorry, Anton, we know each other, so it should be fine. Then you have Christian. He's founder at CISOCon, and that's a company that set up and operates cybersecurity programs at SMEs and also enterprises. And last but not least, you have Ralf Kleinfeld from Otto. Working there since 2011. He's responsible for the whole information security, data privacy topic, identity management, and fraud management at Otto. Also operating information security on a large scale. So what we're going to do in that panel, and what we would like to do is we will discuss AI and AI tooling in the context of cybersecurity, right? So looking at the complexity, the speed of threats that are coming up, and somehow also try, like we did in previous panels as well, that already with a huge disclaimer, we'll try to look into the future of what we see or expect will come and what it actually means for cybersecurity. So welcome, thanks for joining, and I would like to start with one question to the panelists, and that is making the topic of AI and AI tooling a bit more clear and maybe a bit more tangible. So Christian, maybe starting with you, right? So how would you describe AI and cybersecurity? So what are we speaking about eventually?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question, and maybe we can just go around and curious what the others would say. But I think broadly speaking, we have to distinguish between like attacking LLMs, right? Attacking AI tools, and then kind of the perspective, taking the business perspective, meaning what I say, the business risks or the enterprise risks introduced by AI. And then I think here, let's see how far we come in this discussion. I think we can broadly categorize between what good can AI do for the good guys, the CISOs, the people in charge that want to leverage AI technology for the purpose of driving their security program, right? And then sort of the flip side of that coin, what good can AI technology do for the bad guys in order to ultimately break in and cause damage? That's sort of my mental frame when I think about AI security.
Does it mean we're speaking about LLMs mainly in that topic, or are we speaking about, I mean, imagining like, I think you're old enough, right? The Matrix movies, probably most of you have seen them, hopefully. So having that guard just waiting for things to happen, right? And then identifying some kind of threat, attacking it. Is that something that we're speaking of? So AI that just automatically identifies things and attacks it, or prevent attacks?
I mean, that was my first case. Like if we think about hacking LLMs, we speak about like things like prompt injection and maybe training, data manipulation, these kind of broad scale attacks to change, I don't know, global narrative on politics or whatever the case may be, right? And I think that's a completely different viewing angle on AI security when compared to, again, the tangible risks that businesses, say Otto or somebody else, is facing introduced by AI.
Yeah, I mean, Ralf, happy to hear your perspective as well, and maybe also looking a bit into the direction how the tools out there or that you use actually influence that cybersecurity landscape. I mean, it's moving fast anyway, it's very dynamic, right? But really curious for your perspective on that.
LLMs are just some kind of boost for cybersecurity, on both sides, as you just said, the good side and the bad side. And probably it's not inventing new attack vectors, but more or less speeding up and decreasing the knowledge requirements of criminals to use tools to attack companies. And yeah, I think we have to use it on both sides. We have to get familiar with it, and we have to train our employees how to deal with technology, also in regards of AI. And from my experience, I would say AI is nothing really new. If you start with machine learning, that's something which is quite common in the cybersecurity area. So finding out normal behavior and detect abbreviation from that, that's something which is not really new. But I think with generative AI, there is this boost where both sides can increase the performance and speed.
Right. And I mean, if I would very much simplify that, right, does it just mean we get more and better kind of phishing emails as an example, right? Because I mean, it looks like everyone can very easily create like a phishing email, like a very good looking one, and send it out, right? So is that the direction, or should we expect more?
I think that's one side of the medal. So yes, things will get better, but I think this phishing emails without typos and correct language setting, that's something we will probably see. But I think generative AI can also combine that, for example, with automatic social engineering. So the phishing mail itself will get better, but also the background to create it. And that's an example where many different vectors will be combined, and AI is the thing to make it easy and convenient for attackers.
And I mean, maybe also Anton looking in your direction, right? Are companies prepared for it? I mean, you look at that from a business perspective, right? Are we able to insure a risk at a company? And is it something we see? I mean, we have the experts here, right, who run security programs, but cybersecurity insurance is also often addressing companies that are not kind of state of the art. How do you see that landscape there?
Yeah, first of all, I think companies are not prepared. And I think you cannot be prepared for this kind of new threats, because no one knows exactly what's going to happen. So everyone is afraid. There's a lot of fear and I think misconception about capabilities of the AI, capabilities of new actors on the market, but also capabilities of the software and companies which could protect. I think this is what we also try to pitch. So saying you need to understand, first of all, the basics, get to the basics of cybersecurity, do the basics first. And this is, by the way, also recommendations from the newest reports saying, okay, we have all the studies on the AI and so forth, right? But if you don't do basics like MFA, backups, the patching and so on, don't start even thinking about anything advanced, do the usual stuff that will protect 99% of companies. Yeah. And then yeah, so I think most of the companies are aware of something is going on, but not, I think, way less companies actually know what to do.
I mean, you run, or at CISOCon, you run multiple programs across multiple firms, right? You may have a bit of broader view on that. But what is your take on that? Potential risk misuse, is there more than phishing that you see coming up or saw already?
Yeah, it's a clear yes, but it's also difficult to describe. I mean, I think ultimately, like Ralf was saying, it's a force multiplier for the good guys and for the bad guys, right? I think typically it is fair to say that the attackers are doing a better job overall taking advantage of such technologies in an effort to run extortion attempts, break in somewhere, etc. Then the good guys are in leveraging the same technology to protect themselves. It is certainly more than phishing, that's for sure, even though, again, AI brings phishing to a whole new level. Like, one thing that I think anyone can relate to what attackers are doing is they're leveraging an AI technology to, for example, enumerate a company's public footprint. Okay, understand what is internet facing, which services are perhaps vulnerable, where can they break in with, say, least effort. They've been doing that before, nothing has changed, it's just that now they can do that much more efficiently. Okay? And I guess in a much more targeted way, you can say, okay? And they will do that. That is to be expected. That is happening. and that is something completely different than phishing, let's say. So yeah, it is way more than phishing. It's basically the same techniques that they've been using in the past, now just kind of amplified.
Steroids somehow.
Yeah.
The micro.
I would just add to that, because you just said people are afraid of AI, and I think that's some part of the role cybersecurity specialists should play, to explain how it can be misused and how to defend oneself. And I would call it digital literacy is what we need, not only for cybersecurity, but how to deal with digitalization in general. And cybersecurity is one part of digital literacy from my point of view. We have to explain it and to take fears and explain how to deal correctly with it.
And it's interesting, right? Because it was also a topic in one of the previous panels to say, hey, let's play around with that, right? Give it a try, see what the outcome and results of that are. Is it something that you and your teams are actually doing and actively encouraging people try it out? Let's see what the results is, that you are prepared of what may come.
Sure. Not only within my team, but I try to ask the whole organization to do that. And by doing that with my role, I hope that fear is decreasing and people are just trying things out. And by being visible with that that attitude, people are connecting with me and asking how should I do that and what is okay and what is not okay. If we don't talk about it, they may think it is not allowed to do. And I try to take that away and bring people in contact with me or my team to ensure we're doing it in a safe way.
And is it something, maybe Christian, looking in your direction, that AI can help with as well, right? I mean, it's using that tool as a supporting function to mitigate that whole complexity in the process, and also creating that awareness, right?
I'm not quite sure what you're thinking about now, but I think ultimately we need to figure out for every role that tends to be in a security team, whether it's architects, whether it's people that write policies, whether it's the CISO himself, etc., or even people in dev teams, we have to wonder for every role, how do we now amplify the job? To my point that I mentioned before, how do we now take AI and amplify the job that they've been doing before so they are more effective? So for example, I don't know, like, let's see what kind of use cases we come up with, right? But a CISO could go ahead and challenge his resource or budget planning with ChatGPT to the extent that he wants to paste that in there, right? That's, you know,
maybe a topic.
Yeah, that's a whole topic in itself, right? But or let's say a policymaker, he can go ahead and say, look, I need to, I don't know, come up with a strategy on zero trust-based access management in my company. Draft me a process outline of what this could look like. Give me option space, right? Or to the point that you made before, maybe somebody else wants to put up start a security awareness initiative. We see that all the time, right? And now we need to produce tangible best practices for security in the company, right? And not just any best practices, but actually a collection that fits to the specific business environment, right? And you can totally go ahead, as opposed to writing that by yourself, have that, you know, generated or do that in a I guess collaboration with GPT, for example. So I think if you look at that now on a per role basis, you can come up with a whole range of use cases of how, you know, teams can take advantage of, in this case, you know, GPT, but also other, you know, tools.
There are two examples. We are just training a knowledge database with our internal process description. So some new colleagues are getting support by a chat bot for onboarding. So maybe questions like, what are the most important processes I have to know? Whereas we just have more efficiency because the person does not have to talk to other colleagues. And on the other side, we are training our knowledge base so that basic questions or regular questions that are raised very often to our team can be answered by a bot. So we have more time for the more sophisticated questions. that are two use cases, and I think that's worth trying out, how to deal with that and how to increase efficiency in the teams.
Just a very, very short addition to that. Microsoft has just released a Microsoft Defense Report 2023, which I can recommend because it's exactly on this topic. Like, guess what they pitch? Of course, they pitch LLMs, right? Like in cybersecurity, and they mention a list of opportunities, like how basically such models could protect and like new threats. And guess what is a common denominator? It's education. Like, so means like both sides, attackers and defenders, they're struggling for the same lack of expertise, right? Like they want to equip now juniors with new kind of tools, so they're very kind of efficient, like effective in what they're doing. So the company should not miss out on their part, basically on their side, and really start educating and leverage this technology for the educational purposes. Otherwise, like the actors, like bad actors, will definitely invest time in it.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, right? Because I mean, it's always like one before the other, right? Who's actually faster thing? Would you say that kind of the rise of generative AI kind of equalized? I mean, that's actually what the article is proposing, right? Saying, hey, suddenly we are on the same level again, and we started race initially. But is it something that you see as well in terms of now we can even be faster than attackers and be more protective at the end? Is that something you see coming up? Christian, I mean, or Anton, not sure.
Is that something that's coming up? I'm not sure. I hope people, like security teams, put in an effort, that's for sure.
I mean, it's interesting, right? Because the discussion is, this is also what I take with me, is like a lot of educating people, making sure that people understand. If we think in the direction of, and we discussed the topic before, right, of kind of autonomous AI or anything, right? So my takeaway at the moment is, and maybe also happy to get that challenge is, right, in the future there will still be humans in place. We're not, or are we standing at the sideline, right? And just keeping our fingers crossed and having competing AIs. One is attacking, one is defending. You just hope that our actually wins, right? Not sure what you say about that, but maybe that's like a too dark future. I don't know.
As long as humans are using technology and humans are steering AI, it depends on humans who will win in the end. And maybe one example, if you look at deepfakes, the tools to generate deepfakes are getting better and better. So that makes detecting a deepfake video much more difficult. So on the defender side, AI has limits, because on the attacker side, technology is increasing. So now we need humans to react to that, because I think AI on the defender side will have limits here. And if we rely on AI, we will be lost. So human factor, from my point of view, is the question who will succeed.
That also making then these teams doing kind of the human analysis more efficient by helping them with some kind of pattern detecting, still by machine learning then probably, or something like that? Or is it something that humans just need to do, right? Because if I see that flood of emails, that flood of attacks that actually getting in, then this will also overload humans at a certain point. That would be my assumption, right? But is it something where you see AI also helping you to kind of select all of the stuff or pre-select things?
Something which is not very new, because I don't know how many spam mails you are receiving every day. I think the number which is in the end heading into the inbox is decreasing. So, and I would imagine that there is AI already supporting detecting of malicious emails.
But I mean, this is a question, please, if you to add to that.
I was just going to say, I think anything having to do with big data processing for the purpose of kind of telling signal from noise apart, as we say in the security industry, right? Anything in that regard, I think ML and AI in general totally help, and have actually for a number of years. This is, to your point, this is not something completely new. I think we've seen in the network security space and also in the endpoint security space and other spaces, we've seen ML being used for data crunching and ultimately discovering anomalies. So that's nothing new.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not new. I think the new thing is just the barrier is very low right now. So you don't need big data anymore to train models, right? Like you just take like OpenAI API, right? Like and start like doing good or bad things, right? So for example, phishing, like it's not required anymore to really build like templates, phishing templates. It's not required to do any kind of analysis. So you just ask bot like or API, okay, what kind of tools are probably in use based on the following scanning results, maybe of the website or just the website, right? Like it will tell you, okay, it's probably login with Google, like there's Personio, there's something more basically, and automatically can build templates and landing pages for this particular company. So there are a lot of POCs proving this really it's not a virtue anymore, like it could be done by school children almost, I would say. And this is like a difference. Like the technology is not entirely new, like the entry point is very, very low now, like, and which could be also like potentially a big problem.
I said enough because that's why we are talking currently focused on LLM, because that's a game changer, making AI available for everyone. So ChatGPT has proven that it's usable by every person, while before AI was a topic of experts. So you always needed some specialist to talk about AI. Now everybody becomes more or less familiar with AI features. And that's a game changer behind that, and which is speeding up, increasing quality on both sides of the race.
It's an interesting question, right? Because this is like the current state, and we saw at least how fast AI or LLMs specifically developed within the last 1.5 years. And now the highly speculative part actually comes, right? No one can predict the future. But from your perspective, so what is your prediction in terms of how will it look like in, let's say, 3 years from now, right? So it's an overseeable time frame on the one hand. On the other hand, seeing like the history, it's also pretty long already. Maybe Ralf, starting with you. So what is your kind of prediction? And it's already recorded, right? Don't forget that.
Okay, so we will see it in 3 years.
We can just sit together in 3 years again, then discuss it.
But I would not see 3 years as a short term. So it's more the glass sphere we are looking into if you're talking about 3 years from my point of view. So I would think that in the distance of 2 or 3 years, I will support those common attack vectors to be protected in a good way. No? As you just said, the basic things have to be, in the end, perfect. Supported by technology. So attack vectors on the technology basis should be a question of the past. And then we will have more attacks where cybersecurity professionals will deal on the application logic. And for example, data poisoning of AIs and so on. So we will have more to deal with business processes and application logic instead of technology-based attacks.
Right. Thank you, Christian. What's your take?
I don't know what the future will look like. I can tell you what I hope it will look like. Meaning, I mean, this I don't hope, but certainly that's a given. Attackers will continue to take advantage of it. I think that's clear. You don't have to be a programmer anymore to write exploitation code and things like that. We just talked about that. But what I hope will happen is that number one, security teams find more explicit ways, like we talked about, to take advantage of AI technology to amplify their job on a per role basis. I'm looking forward to CISOs, the CISO community figuring that out. I'm looking forward to security engineers and architects figuring that out. SOC teams, we kind of touched on that a little bit, etc. So that's what I hope. And then second, I think this is also to be expected, is that PCs hopefully will continue, or invest more and more into products that they themselves then leverage AI technology to do something good for the defense side, right? And so I think overall we will see more AI technology beyond just ML in, what's that beeping tone, by the way?
It's not another fire alarm.
Anyways, so more AI and security products, right? That's for sure.
Anton, I mean, looking into the insurance side, so will in 3 years from now, let's say, we will still be able to insure companies, and will just the tooling become better to analyze the risks and such for these companies, or how do you look at that?
Definitely, but the insurance is it looks like very different from what you probably know. Like, it's not you don't just pay premium and expect that insurance will pay you like if you're under attack. So you have to really collaborate with insurances. And insurance is also like insurance companies become very much more proactive. So they scan their clients. They try to do like phishing exercises, for example. Really educate also the clients about threats. So I think this is the only way how to protect. You have to be proactive and not just complain about like low budgets and things like that. So technologies which we've got, I think they're like targeting exactly this point, like lowering the budget, so you have like more resources to protect yourself like proactively.
Interesting point with the budgets. I mean, is it something that you see already, that kind of business people that are not part of, let's say, the security area, that this is now the chance to increase spend on cybersecurity topics, which may have been a bit more under the radar, or like the first area where people at a certain point start to cut costs or don't want to spend costs? Is it something that you see budget increases on your side already?
Budget increase
in terms of you can spend more money on kind of people, on kind of tools or whatever in that space, right? So if you're a CISO at a company, right, so do you just get more budget to defend better, because business people understand, oh, I could even myself set up a phishing example.
I don't think the entire AI game is a trigger for budget increases. No, I don't think that's quite the way it works, unfortunately.
But Ralf, how do you see it? Same thing?
Yeah, I would undescribe that. And I think we have to move more effort on the business side. And it's not always a question of budget. So creating a car without thinking about safety belts and airbags and so on would be a very expensive car in the end, because you have to start over again if you do that in the end. And we have to create in the business area this thinking that cybersecurity is part of a business process. And then it's maybe not only a question of budget, but more on efficiency and awareness.
Right. And thanks a lot for answering all of the questions. I mean, that's a highly interesting topic. So are there any questions from the audience that you may raise or ask? All right.
Sebastian has some.
Hey, we answered all the questions. That's very good to hear. Then I think 4 takeaways, at least for me, out of the discussion are, it's easier, obviously, to do attacks, right, to companies. So the entry level kind of lowered quite a lot compared to what already happens, right? So everyone, not everyone maybe, but the people who haven't dealt with the topic can just easily start doing professional-looking stuff that may convince people to click on the link in the email, despite they should do it. I think one of the many of the counter arguments against that was training, education, talk about it, showing people how easy it is to sensibilize them for that specific topics. I think looking into the future, we just said, yeah, it's a glass bowl even 3 years from now, right? Probably be interesting to just still look at that. But my understanding is as well that we typically will not expect some kind of large flood of attackers will just overwhelm us, right? But it will stay kind of a back and forth game all over the time. All right. Last chance for any questions. Otherwise, the panelists are still here. Thanks for being with us this time. Thanks to all of you. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the talks.
Good.